We have in studio Jon. Am I pronouncing this right? Jon Chandonnet?
Correct.
Okay, great. And you just have an amazing story. I mean, you were completing your master's degree at MIT. You had a job offer from Sapient, right? That was a
Correct.
big technology
Exactly. It
company,
still is,
right?
yes.
And then you got hit with this diagnosis, which was for
MS, multiple
MS.
sclerosis. I was 27.
27.
I was on a basketball court and I lost fine motor control of my left hand and left leg. And I was spazzing on the basketball court and I was a busy college kid at the time. And I was like, you know what? I don't have time for this. And limped around campus for 2 weeks and finally went to see a doctor who had an MRI done. And MRI came back and said, "Yep, you've got MS."
And so this happened like all of a sudden, like you were blindsided?
Completely blindsided. And then, I was 27, and at that point, I basically ignored it. I lived in denial, and I knew two people who had an MS diagnosis before, and one person basically went on to live a great life with no symptoms, and another person had pretty severe symptoms, and after a number of years was confined to a wheelchair. And so I was 27, a 27-year-old guy, not really sure how to deal with it. And so I didn't.
Yeah, of course.
I ignored it
How long did you stay in denial?
for 6 years. And during that time, Jean-Noel, I did some amazing things. I mean, I ran marathons.
Wow.
I ran LA and Philadelphia a couple times with my
Wow.
brother, and climbed Whitney and Shasta and Tyndall and a couple of the other 14,000-foot peaks in California.
So were you almost making an effort to go to the other extreme, do you think?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Basically I flicked the switch to go way far to the extreme and live my life to prove that I was okay. And you know what? It worked. And after I was running marathons, I was like, maybe this is the answer. Maybe this is not gonna catch up to me. Maybe I can keep things kind of under wraps.
Kind of control it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe I can manage things, and maybe I can live this great life that I was meant to live.
And then what happened?
Until it stopped working.
Yeah.
And basically over 2 years, lost function, lost feeling from my elbows to my fingers, my knees to my toes. I was failing online tests at work that I'd been with the company long enough to teach. I was falling downstairs. My speech,
Speech was slurring.
it was slurring. I would not be able to have a conversation with you.
What about the vision?
The vision, there was some vision issues, but
not so much for that, but the speech kind of
the
numbness
speech, the speech and the numbness and just falling. I was falling downstairs. Come
not
on.
pretty. Embarrassing, huh?
Yeah, no, it was, and I tried to deny it. I thought that was the answer. That was going to be what allowed me to live a great life.
It gets hard to make excuses because I interviewed Annette Funicello right after she had been diagnosed.
Right.
And the thing was, she had all these tabloid reporters following her, and they thought she was drunk because she didn't want to go public.
Right.
So did you have to kind of people, you were probably worried, like, what were people thinking, right?
Right. I told no one. I told no one. I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't want it to slow me down at work, and so I worked really hard, and I had a lot of success at work to prove that I was okay, to prove my mettle and that I was worthy, and
But eventually people notice, right?
Yeah,
you can't hide it, right?
Yeah, eventually, 7 years in, things started to catch up to me.
What happened? What?
The speech was one thing, and my mind, I started to be forgetful and just wasn't as quick witted as I typically was. And I prided myself on my rational thought, my ability to think, and that was going. and then just my movement, my mobility, and starting to limp
So what
and
did you do at that point?
where at that point, after the 2 years, Jean Noel got so bad I lost hope. And I was fortunate to have. There's a lot of people in my life who love me, which that's a really important thing. So whether it's my wife or my family, my mom, dad, my brother, um, they basically had an intervention. you know,
You hadn't told them yet, right?
no, they knew,
They knew at this point.
but but they they allowed me, they
To,
allowed me
yeah.
to live the great life that I was trying to live.
They saw that you were,
Yeah.
and then they saw it wasn't working, right?
And they saw it wasn't working.
Right.
At my wedding, I began to slow down a bit, which it's a hard thing to swallow.
Yeah.
And I just realized at that point, after 2 years, where I had no hope, I had to find an answer. I had to find a different way. My way of being, of trying to push the limits, it wasn't working. And so my brother turned me on to this place in San Diego called OHI, the Optimum Health Institute.
Oh yeah, is that based on the Ann Wigmore?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Gabriel Cousins and Ann Wigmore.
Yes, I met Gabriel once. Yeah. So explain what they do.
Yeah, amazing. So I went to in San Diego to the retreat center, and basically for 4 months took time off from work and detox from life. All I did was eat raw food, and I basically was mindful of everything that was going into my body, whether it was food, liquids. The only thing I was drinking was water and Rejuvelac.
Did you fast for a while?
I fasted. Yeah, every week we fasted for 3.5 days. And so, at OHI, I realized that I could not just fight things with my mind and my body, which is what I had done for 6 years.
Right. And a lot of people who sometimes get MS tend to have, I don't know if you felt that control thing.
Right.
Yeah.
No. Right. So try to control things with my mind and my body.
Right.
And that would allow me to have financial and professional success. That was the answer. Boom, I found it. But it didn't work. And then at OHI, that's where I realized, okay, it's mind, body, spirit, and emotions. Those 4 things are important. And what they allow is they allow for me to tap into my professional purpose. So what I was meant to do professionally, and that hopefully allow me to live the abundant life that I'm meant to live, so financially, and then socially surround myself with a group of people and support system that nurture my vibrant well-being, if you will. So those 7 aspects, I had 4 of them dialed in before the MS caught up to me. It caught up to me, and then none of them were working. Basically, I had to throw them all out and find a new way of being.
Right. It sounds like you had to totally reinvent yourself.
I did.
Physically, emotionally,
emotionally, spiritually, mentally. I mean.
And so what was that like for you? What was the big turnaround? What were some of the things you realized about how you'd been living before that had possibly fed into creating, this condition?
Right. My beliefs were so important. I had to be perfect. I had to, perfection was kind of what I held out there as my mantra for being. And I realized I had to ease back on myself and just, I'm living with this. It slows me down. It causes me to have to take rests and so forth.
It's almost like the body resists perfection, doesn't it?
Yeah. No, right, exactly. The body does. I mean,
it has its own perfection.
There's something.
But when we try to,
there's something spiritually amiss with that.
Yeah.
Which I realized.
Yeah, because maybe if there's a larger force, it's got, right, its own ideas, and if we try to micromanage all that,
it's got its own way.
Yeah, and
It's
the
got
nerve
it
lining goes like, I don't know if I want to stick around on these nerves, you know.
right. It will whack you back into place.
Yeah.
It'll tell you. It'll let you know that there's maybe something else out there that's guiding your path. That it doesn't matter how bad you want your will wants you to have it. There's another way.
Yeah, you
So,
can't totally control or micromanage it, right?
right.
Yeah.
It,
I think that's one of the big lessons of MS.
that is one of the that's the beauties. I mean now so I say MS is my biggest teacher.
Mhm.
It's taught me so much about life and it's allowed me it's opened up a whole world of well-being that I didn't think was possible.
Hmm.
Just with my wife and just allowed me to understand, you know, compassion and love and forgiveness and which things, when I was working a job, that was more professional, I didn't have time to think about these things.
Right.
I had
Yeah.
responsibilities. I had things that I had to get done. You know,
No time for
there's
those things.
there's no time for those things.
Yeah. Yeah. So so you were down at the institute. Your physical
Correct.
body was getting better, right?
Right.
Was that happening? Your
Yeah,
physical?
it was. I noticed after 3 weeks that I was getting better.
Mm.
It was amazing.
Wow,
Um,
that's fast.
and so that which was fast. And so I realized that yeah, everything I put into my body does impact the way I be, the
Mhm.
way that I am in the world.
So
Um,
did that help you? Did you start to get some of your strength back with that?
Yes, I did. By the time I left there after 4 months, I was carrying around vegetables in the garden and picking vegetables, and the director of the institute one day saw me carrying these vegetables up the parking lot up the hill. She was like, "What? Well, that's amazing!" Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was quick, and it allowed me to understand that I I had to be very mindful about how I wanted to be in the world. And so yeah, I went back to work and I stayed there for 3 years until I realized that wasn't allowing me to maintain my health.
Mm.
And so my health declined and so forth. And because I'm living with this disease that wants to stop me in my tracks.
So are you constantly having to keep in balance? So, you know.
It is constant. You're
Mm.
right, John Noel. It's constant habit. It's every day. It's every meal. It's having to take a walk every day. It's
Mm.
working out with my trainer. It's twice a week. It's doing yoga. It's being mindful
Mhm.
of everything I put in my body, as I said,
Mm.
and what I'm thinking in my mind.
Wow. So you've written a book and it's coming out in November?
It sure is. Yes.
Great. And how can people get it?
Well, it'll be available on Amazon, and
Okay.
so I'm self-publishing.
Print and electronic,
Print
print and
and
Kindle
Yep, print and electronic. So
Okay.
I'll have my own there will be the
Publishing.
electronic version,
Yeah.
yes, publishing,
Yeah.
which will be great.
Yeah.
So all the formats, whether paper or electronic,
Right.
you'll be able to get.
Put it on
Um,
Smashwords maybe, or if you check out Smashwords, they've got all the different digital platforms and everything. Make everything available. So
Great.
yeah.
Yeah, we're doing it through Lightning Press, and
Oh,
so
okay. Yeah. Those are the
they're
good.
helping us format it for all the different
Oh,
platforms,
good.
and I'll print through them, so it'll be print on demand. So I'm not going to be shipping around bits
Right.
when you don't need to. So
Right. And so in the book, is this just for people with MS, or is it who's it
great
for?
question. So it's anyone who faces a challenge in life.
Hmm.
That's the universal aspect of my story. It's no matter everyone's got something in life that they get thrown a curveball,
Hmm. Hmm.
and they have to figure out a different way of being
Yeah.
to unlock vibrancy in their life.
Mhm.
And that's the universal truth in my story.
So this sounds like an amazing book because you can see that you were thrown like a huge curveball, a huge challenge, and obviously have figured out a way to find well-being again and to keep that going. So this sounds like a fascinating book for anybody facing a challenge So
Which is
again,
probably everyone in life faces
right.
challenge, right?
Yeah, who
Yeah.
doesn't?
Right,
Right,
right.
right. So give your website again.
My website is jonchandonnet.com. So
Yeah,
J O N
spell it.
JonChandonnet.com.
Okay.
Um,
And so they can either go to the website, get the book, or get it through Amazon, or
exactly. When it
okay.
comes out in November, they can get it on Amazon.
Great, great. Well, thank you so much for being here. An amazing story, really amazing story. My best friend that I ran away from home with got MS, and she is in a wheelchair now. And when I interviewed Annette, of course, she had great hope, but Annette couldn't turn it around, you know. So congratulations.
Thank you.